Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to answer a couple questions that was put to me recently. So people ask, why do I do all these videos where I talk about, coding and the business of coding and careers in coding and so on? There's a few reasons for it. Number one, I would keep getting asked questions from people via email, people who buy my courses, my web development courses, people coming to my websites, Killer Sites or Killer PHP or whatever, and they kept asking me a lot of business-oriented questions. So I figured I might as well put up a bunch of videos on them just to get it out there so people can watch them. I figured some people would find it useful. You notice on my channel, I don't have any ads, right? I don't put any YouTube ads on there. And I don't even know how much I would make with that. I think at this point, in a month I get maybe 50,000 or 60,000 views or something. So it's not a huge amount. But the YouTube thing is more or less of a hobby for me. It also allows me to communicate with people out there. As a sideline, though, I find that it actually has a lot of people who watch my videos on YouTube end up buying my interactive web developer package because when they go and they see how it is, they see the value of it. It's not. I don't want to be a commercial for my package though. The big difference with my interactive web developer package versus anything else that you're going to see out there, all the other video vendors and course vendors, besides the quality of the course, you can decide whether or not they're good for you, is the fact that it's interactive. You have that whole Q&A type of structure in my courses, which are very, very different than just watching a bunch of videos. I think that's one of the big things. So another reason why I do these YouTube videos is because it helps me to keep developing my skill sets as a presenter. I've been teaching code since 2003, and frankly, I'm better at writing and communicating through written word than I am through video. Although in the last several years, I'm starting to finally get comfortable in front of the camera. But I have to tell you, it was really difficult for me. It was really difficult for me to be to just let my personality come out when I was on camera, because when you're teaching detailed things like programming languages or object-oriented coding or something, you have to be very specific in terms of the topics that you cover. You have to cover topic A before you go to B, before you go to C. So that's much more difficult, at least for me, to present than if you're just vlogging about, I don't know, how you make banana cake or something. So by doing these YouTube videos on a daily basis, there's a certain benefit to me because I'm just refining my skill set. I'm just grinding it through. Every time I do a video, every time I present a subject on YouTube or wherever else, my overall skills as a presenter increases. That's all. So what does that mean? That means that I have to do much less edits now when I do my professional courses. I have to do many less takes. So it's just much easier, and the quality overall improves in terms of my presentation. Let me help you understand that. When I look at videos, there's two things you got to look at when you look at videos, especially training courses. You got to look at the presentation style in terms of how engaging the speaker is. Is he monotone like this, or does he have some dynamics in his voice? Is there some range? And there's also the teaching value, whether or not the teacher is able to break down the complex subjects into simple to understand chunks. So there's two things that you got to look at. What you see out there typically is not very good overall in terms of training courses. But what you see more often than not, 95% of the time, when you do see something that looks pretty good, it's usually pretty good in terms of presentation style. They can present well. There's dynamics in their voice and so forth. But in terms of being able to break down complexity and make it simple to teach, that's where I find a lot of these online web courses are lacking. And the reason that is because most people who are teaching code online, who are teaching development online, they've never taught before. They're not trained teachers. They don't understand how to teach. There is a skill set. There is a structure of teaching. You have to understand the psychology. You have to understand psychology. You have to understand how people learn, how the brain learns, and so on. I'm not a a trained teacher, but I studied psychology in university. My father was a teacher. And over the last 5-6 years working with schools with my Studio Web system, we've refined that as well in terms of really raising the bar in terms of how I present my course material, so it's really easy to understand. You know, besides the fact I've been teaching code since 2003, that also, you know, experience earned in the marketplace goes a long way. You get all the feedback and so on. You keep improving, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This goes back to coding as well. When you learn how to code academically, whether it be through one of my courses or you go to school or whatever, you know, that's the beginning of knowledge. You really get into it is when you jump into the game, you're actually writing code, you're building apps. A good coding course should teach you much more than just the coding. They should teach you the process. They should teach you about the pitfalls, teach you about the reality. The reality-based coding training is what you need. Now, to get that, you need somebody who's been coding for years to be able to teach you all this kind of stuff. So one of the things I've learned over the years, and I keep emphasizing this when it comes to learning code, is to really concentrate on the basics. Try not to get caught up in the new fad framework or new fad language or the new fad process. At the end of the day, what separates the great coders from the not so great coders, the great coders have a nice grasp, a mastery of the basic concepts in coding, in app development, and so on. And I've talked about this in many videos. So there you go. So to answer that question, I'm on YouTube. It's just an easy way for me to answer questions. B, it allows me to practice my ability to deliver video better. And C, it also gives me promotion. Like frankly, I'm surprised at how many people watching my YouTube videos go and buy my course package because the videos are much more career oriented, although I do expose some of my code courses. Whereas when you go to my training packages, my training package, especially the interactive web developer, it's much more language and, you know, into the real nuts and bolts of coding. And of course, you got the whole Q&A thing happening. You know, just the Q&A portion of my courses has around 25,000 words. To put it in context, my book, which I wrote last year, Web Design Start Here, that had about 30,000 or 35,000 words when edited. I wrote maybe 50,000 words, and you know, you get through the process with the editors and you're working with the publishers, they edit you down. And so the interactive web developer, my online course, just the quizzing and the Q&A section, where it's kind of like having a semi-private Q&A with me, is over 25,000 words, well, around 25,000 words of text. And so that's an extra added value there as well. So that takes it to a whole new level. And you see people who post it on YouTube. You see some of the comments. Several people have, you know, who have taken my course, who found me through my YouTube channel. They comment on it and they talk about it. So you get an idea how much they really like it. So there you go. Those are the reasons why I do the YouTube channel. It benefits everybody else because I try to answer questions, but it also helps me too in certain ways. All right, thanks for watching. We'll talk soon.